Chapter 3. The Plan. Hugo had helped Isabel hobble out of the bedroom, and now they sat shaking at the kitchen table. He got some ice for her foot, and the two of them remained silent, trying to nurse their wounds. Eventually, Isabel's godmother came out of the bedroom. Are those really Papa George's drawings? Why didn't I ever know he was an artist? Quiet, Isabel. Just tell me how your foot feels. It hurts. And your hand, Hugo? He shrugged. My house has suddenly turned into a hospital ward. The old woman shook her head and tried to laugh, but she sat down at the table with him and began to cry. What's going on? Asked Isabel. Why were those drawings hidden in the armoire? Why did Papa George get so upset when he saw them? Can't you see the damage that's already been done, Isabel? Papa George is developing a fever. Who knows how long it's going to last? There's nothing more to say. You stole my key. You broke into my armoire. You're as bad as a thief here. I don't want you two to see each other again. Do you hear me? You can stay here till the morning, Hugo. I'll call a doctor to look at you, and Isabel, and George, and then I want you gone. She ripped up some strips of fabric and made makeshift bandages for Hugo's hand and Isabel's foot. She wrapped them as tightly as she could. I'm sorry, Mama Jean. Please don't be mad. We just wanted to... Hush! It's bedtime. Hugo, there is the couch. Come, Isabel, I'll help you to your room. But Hugo didn't sleep on the couch. A plan formed in his mind, and as soon as Isabel and her godmother had left the room and gone to sleep, he tiptoed over to the coat hooks by the door. The old man's coat was hanging there, and Hugo fished in the pockets. He heard a jangling sound and found what he was looking for. He took the ring of keys, left the house and walked back to the train station in the dark. Hugo headed straight for the shuttered toy booth. He made sure no one was around, and then he tried all the keys on the keyring until he found the one that opened the booth. He stepped inside and began going through the boxes, opening drawers and flipping through papers the old man kept there. But there were no clues. Hugo had been hoping that perhaps there might be some scrap of paper to help him figure out what it was the old woman was keeping secret. Something in the booth he had never noticed before. Hugo did not find one curious item, though wrapped in a piece of fabric at the very back of the drawer. Hugo did find one curious item, though, wrapped in a piece of fabric at the very back of the drawer. Hugo didn't know why the old man had kept the blue mouse. He had always assumed the toy had been sold a long time ago. Hugo liked that he had kept it, though. He found himself smiling as he turned the blue mouse over in his hands. Hugo thought about the little mechanical parts inside the mouse, as well as the other toys that he had stolen and used to fix the automaton. He had never really stopped to consider why the pieces from the old man's toys fit so well into the mechanical man. Hugo wrapped up the mouse and returned it to the drawer. As he turned to leave, he saw one of Isabel's books tucked into a corner of the booth. That gave him an idea. Hugo returned to his room and was relieved to see the mechanical man still sitting in the centre of the floor. He managed to drag it back to its hiding place, grimacing in pain the whole time. He wrapped it up once again in the old piece of fabric and covered the hiding place with boxes. When he finished, he glanced over at the shelf with his bucket of tools and his heart pounded. He hadn't realised until this moment the trouble he was in. It was his right hand that had been injured, and there was no way he could take proper care of the clocks without it. Soon they would begin breaking down, and the station inspector would investigate, and it would all be over. Hugo lay down in his bed and rested his bandaged hand on his chest. Images flashed across his mind. Hugo saw the white, crooked fingers of the station inspector reaching for him. They turned into long, ragged claws and grabbed him violently by the arm. Hugo woke up screaming. He hadn't even realised he had fallen asleep. Morning finally came, and Hugo gathered up his tools and tried to do his morning rounds. Eyes closed, head tilted to the side, he listened to the clocks. But without the use of both hands, he could barely wind them, so he oiled and observed as much as possible, and anxiously compared the clocks with his railroad watch. Time was running out. As soon as he saw Monsieur Lebis open his shop, Hugo ran over. The bell above the door jangled as he entered. Monsieur Lebis was removing his coat when he turned and saw Hugo. "You're Isabel's friend, aren't you? What happened to your hand?" Hugo moved his hand behind his back. "I need to ask you a question, sir. I need to find out information about something. Do you have books about the movies?" "I might." "What about the very first movies? My father saw a movie when he was little that he always remembered. It had a rocket going into the eye of the man in the moon." Hugo thought the movie would be a good place to begin to search for his clues. "That sounds intriguing," Monsieur Lebis said as he straightened his tie and stood up. "Come, young man." Hugo followed him to the shelf and waited while he looked through the books. He pulled out several volumes, glanced in the tables of contents, then closed the books and put them back. No, nothing about very early movies. I'm sorry." Hugo thanked him and headed out the door. Where could he turn next? The bookstore had been his big inspiration. "You might have more look at the Film Academy library," said Monsieur Lebis. Hugo spun around. "Where's that?" Monsieur Lebis gave Hugo directions, and Hugo thanked him and ran out of the shop.